Now, before getting into the video, I do want to preface that I do not condone any harassment or bullying towards any of these creators. I am simply making this video to shed light on some irresponsible behavior within the fandom that has been spoken about more recently. Be sure to check out the Blue Sky account called Black Typhoon if you don't want to read the entire document, as they give you a summary of what's in there. Trust me, I understand it's quite long, but it's informative. Me and one of my Discord moderators who want to remain anonymous made the Black Typhoon account to share more screenshots and spread awareness of the situation without people needing to read the whole document. Be sure to check out the media tab on that account specifically, because recently I had to tell my moderator to trim some of the screenshots down due to them being kind of irrelevant. The document itself will also be linked in there. This video is mainly just going over my personal experience within the whole situation. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I will not be using my usual cheerful tone because today we are talking about something quite serious. I've been noticing a huge uptick in pro-ship art in the community, and I would like to speak out on it. I hope you can stick around for this, as these are topics that have become more of an issue as of recent, that I feel people need to be warned about. Viewer discretion be advised throughout this entire video. I will put timestamps for when certain things are talked about in case you want to get right into the details, or partially in full whenever you can, to really get the idea of how serious these things are. Let's not waste any more time here. So, a slight trigger warning for this section. I will be talking about COCSA and incest in this section. So if that's a trigger for you, please feel free to skip this portion. Now, there is an argument that it could be a coping mechanism for the person drawing pro-ship art. And although that may be true, I, as well as a lot of people, feel like drawing it publicly online and borderline romanticizing it is not good either. But there needs to be a healthier outlet for them to do that, instead of posting their works online. It leads other people with similar issues into thinking that it's okay to be doing stuff like this due to how many out there are publicizing their works and supporting their views behind it. The sad truth is that it only makes their mindset much more unhealthy and could lead them into a worse mental state or doing something that could hurt them and others. Whether the person posting realizes this or not, it's poisoning a lot of young and susceptible minds, and it leads to a lot more harm than good down the line. If you or anyone you know is in an incestuous or abusive relationship, please feel free to check out the link in the pinned comment. You're not alone and there is help for you. Now, I know it may seem obvious to many of you who may be watching this, but I need to clarify why pro-shipping is a bad thing to do and how it can be extremely dangerous within fandoms, especially fandoms like this one that are mainly made up of minors. If you're already educated on this matter, you can skip this part of the video and go on to the main point. I've commonly heard the argument that it's fictional, it's not hurting anybody. Yes, the characters that you are shipping together may not be real and you're not hurting the fictional characters, but there are real-life kids who you are unintentionally putting in harm by defending, supporting, or passing aside said art. As I've said before, a child or someone who lacks the mental stability or self-awareness could come across this type of art and think the situation they're going through is normal and victimize themselves if something similar is going on in the household. We have to remember this fandom and many fandoms online have lots of kids in them. And some kids don't come from good households or understand boundaries, leading them to hurt down the line. Whether you like it or not, it's our job in this community. In whatever position you're in, we need to regulate what we end up posting online. Even in more healthy environments, you may not realize these things can happen. Like what happened to me, for example. When I was around 7 or 8, I went to a family reunion. A little while later, all of the kids that were older than me went to go do something else. Before I could go off with them, my older cousin came up to me and asked me if I wanted to play mommies and daddies. And of course, with me being so young, I thought it would be a normal game of it, but unfortunately for me, it wasn't. She told me to get underneath the covers with her, and then she started to rub my body and kiss me. Now, luckily for me, no actual SA happened. Now imagine if that wasn't just a family reunion. Imagine if me and her were siblings living together within the same house. And she did more than what I just described. Yeah, doesn't sound so cute and wholesome now, does it? If you need more convincing, look at the Duggar family from 19 Kids and Counting. In short, the oldest boy was caught molesting his sisters multiple times, and when they came to their parents, they didn't do anything, essentially. Imagine a child in that very same situation going through the same exact thing, thinking it's normal because they see some art online basically glorifying it. It's really disgusting stuff to think about. There are videos that talk about these sorts of situations, or talk about the exact subject matter in more depth than I could. I will link this in the description of the video. Please go check them out if you have time to sit down and listen. One of my followers, Black Blade, made a document on Twitter exposing someone within the Crystal Bright House server who is accused of drawing incest and abuse victim and abuser ship art. Unfortunately, the document itself was a bit clunky, so I asked them where they got the information. They told me they got it from the Crystal Bright House server, and soon enough, I was hit with a slew of information about the situation. In return, I made my own document on the matter. On September 11th in 2024, I made a post about the person drawing incest ship art between a Zipstorm and Pit Petals, both being canonically sisters in the series of G5. Now you may be wondering, why am I censoring the name of this person in question? That's because they unfortunately had a mental health episode online, and I don't want them to see this and hurt themselves. But if you recognize the art, please don't send any harassment their way. They are offline now, seemingly, taking responsibility for their actions, unlike some other people. Anyway, after I posted this, the person came to DMs and tried to explain their side of the story. Hello, I just saw your post. I'll explain myself. Okay, because yeah, it doesn't look entirely too good, man. I want to believe you, but it's your art style. I'm so sorry. I really think like that. I'm not trying to pry, but like, is it a sort of childhood trauma thing? Because if so, I would just draw that in a private vent or something, you know? It's similar to that, but it's not. I was obsessed with the popularity in the community and money. I've been in radical community since I was a kid, and I've always wanted to be popular as an artist. I understand that, but there are better ways of doing it. I myself am slowly but surely getting more and more popular within the community. If you draw stuff like this, it honestly ruins your reputation. And it already has, to be honest. If I were you, I would just apologize to everyone and leave the internet. Try to seek some sort of therapy for the supposed grooming you went through. I last uploaded a few months ago. I've already realized that this behavior is wrong, and I've asked people to delete the works they've uploaded it as well. Well, I kinda don't blame them, honestly. If you believe this at some point, you are probably more likely to act upon it. Not saying that you will, but still. You have to understand how bad this looks, and how even if it's in the past, it's still going to be drudged up. Definitely make a formal apology to the whole fandom, though. They are extremely disappointed and upset, and so am I, especially about the Misty thing. No matter what circumstances the person may be going through, I don't condone this at all, and neither should anyone else. But we should take this as a cautionary tale as to why incest and problematic art like this can be dangerous to people online, especially minors within the MLP community. There are plenty of adults within this community, of course, but we all know and should remember that MLP is a property meant for children. Therefore, when it comes to subjects such as these, we should not tolerate them, nor let them be passed off as something normal, nor inoffensive. I've heard several testimonies from other people within the community that they have gotten groomed into drawing gross art, such as incest or pedophilic art, or groomed into inappropriate RPs, with that same excuse from earlier that it's just fictional. Us as adults within the MLP community need to watch out for more vulnerable members and cut out any bad behavior we see as soon as possible. Instead of lacking the proper care needed, I've seen a concerning amount of people boasting about this in chats on their profiles. Anyways, a few months later, they were caught race swapping their human Misty design to be white by a Twitter user. Now, in my personal opinion, the race swapping isn't that big of a deal compared to the incest art. However, the fact that they took a character that they perceived as being POC and turning them white does lead credence to the Twitter user's idea that this untitled pony may be trying to pander to alt-right-wing audiences in the community. After that whole situation, when UP alluded to wanting to hurt themselves and officially got offline, I tweeted them this. Now, hopefully they're doing okay and they're getting the help that they need. Unfortunately, I didn't screenshot when I told them that they should go to therapy the first time I talked to them officially, but it seems like they've deleted their account and they're no longer online, so that's good at least for them, as well as the community. They seem to be taking accountability, unlike the next person that we'll be discussing, who is officially the biggest outlier to date. In early 2025, it was found out that the thumbnail artist for the TYT leaks, as well as the head lead for the Path to Skyros G5 revival team, Shadow Uwu, some may know her as Shadow Arts or Shadow Galaxy, was allegedly into incest art and did several collaborations with people who were into the Petalstorm ship. I do have more proof of these sorts of arts on their profile, but I feel like what I'm showing here can get you the idea. I do not recommend going on their profile to view it if you are underage. But if you are an adult, please view with caution. I have more proof documented if needed to provide, but I will not give it to anyone who is under 18. I posted my infamous anti-Petalstorm picture on June 6th, 2025, due to the ship not only showing up again, but getting more popular than before, which was enough of a sign for me to say something about it. Then one of Shadow's followers decided to take the art. If it wasn't being used for obvious malicious purposes, I wouldn't mind, by the way, and put it on Derpy Buru to basically bash me for my opinion I had on the ship Petalstorm on Twitter/X. After a little traction, Shadow commented under my post, and I proceeded to have a little bit of a back and forth with them. Now, given the last situation, I wanted to approach the person with a bit more care and sympathy so as to not make them have a really bad mental health episode online like UP did. But unfortunately, they were extremely rude to me and basically doubled down on their pro-incest opinion, and I mean really double down. The biggest irony of it all is that I didn't plan on drawing the ship ever again, but people bringing up my old art and complaining about it really reignited my passion to do it, LOL. People are still gonna think that you're into it if it's on your profile, and you're doing collaborations with people who like the ship and also retweeting their art. Never said I don't like it. I just lost interest in drawing it till the complaining made me want to draw it again. I don't know if this is a coping mechanism of yours or anything, but I would just keep it off the internet and delete it, to be honest. Somebody could stumble across it and get the wrong idea and think that their situation is healthy when it's really not. Art like that can be damaging. And if it's not a coping mechanism, it's genuinely just optically a bad look on your part. This is something you would do, not me. You can't disconnect fiction from reality. It's not problematic in any way. And it's something that has been heavily popular in the fandom since birth. And any other fandom out there. Pretty much every adult involved in the fandom for a while knows this. It's one of its quirks. It's not problematic in any way. It's all fiction. None of this happens. Of course I don't support it IRL. It's wrong every way imaginable. But a picture is harmless. Zip and Pip are sisters. The fact that Zip is older than Pip could possibly be abusive due to the age gap. I don't care or focus on them being related in the slightest. I just love their dynamic as characters, just like Hitch and Sunny. It's problematic due to the fact that it's grooming in a way. You're basically telling people that it's okay for your older sibling to want to date you, essentially. That can be so problematic in so many ways. It can lead to so much abuse. I don't get why you don't understand that. This is such a stretch. You really gotta find some real problems to be concerned about in life instead of harassing artists online because you're craving some control over people. I commented because I was curious to see how this conversation would go. But this is pure cult talk. After that conversation, I decided to mute them because they were basically just being nothing but defiant and not really wanting to listen to my post as to why this could be dangerous. To remind some of you who have watched earlier in this video, there are many reasons as to why incest should not be glorified, and people shouldn't draw it so publicly. It's a highly dangerous ideology to be fixated on, especially within a fandom filled with minors, which I must say, again, is what the MLP fandom has. If someone who is underage unfortunately experienced some of those events happening within their own lives and sees that type of art, they might think it's completely fine and normalize it to themselves in their own heads, leading to an unhealthy mindset in the future. Shadow is a huge part of the MLP G5 revival project and has a relatively large audience compared to a lot of people within the community. With their influence, children could easily come across their content and consume it, which is very dangerous. People with big platforms should not be supporting such dangerous ideologies to people, especially with such a young audience. Shadow has advertised their 18+ artworks without putting proper safeguards on their main account. This lack of care she is showing is blatantly irresponsible and downright disgusting, on top of her ideology of pro-shipping and how she defends it. It is obvious to me that she is completely irresponsible and does not care for the well-being of her viewers, or other viewers who simply just want to see her work. The excuse of "you'd actively have to search it out" cannot be defended here, as it only takes a few scrolls on her main profile, with normal artworks of hers, to find this content. There was also her commission page, which showed it completely uncensored and free for anyone to look at. Luckily, she did the bare minimum after being called out by me, which I'm happy it's censored now, but still, it didn't have to take me calling her out to fix the behavior. Also, the argument of the hidden feature is a thing doesn't apply here either. As a content creator, you need to set boundaries between you and your audience. It's your responsibility to monitor things you post and how you post them. You cannot rely on your audience to be as safe, well-minded, or careful with what they view. I am not saying that people shouldn't post NSFW artworks at all, or not have an NSFW account. By all means, if you're an adult and you're aware and careful of your audience by monitoring it correctly, do as you please. As long as, of course, it isn't any illegal content. I am not here to control your actions or tell you to stop if you know how to take responsibility and know your moral right. As I too have an After Dark account with my own art that I monitor very closely as to who's allowed to see it. I have to verify people before I let them into my account, and it's a responsibility I take seriously. A lot of people, especially creators, need to realize they have to keep their SFW and NSFW content separate from each other, if that's the kind of work they do. That way, minors don't have to stumble upon inappropriate artworks on an SFW page. Shadow, however, is being extremely irresponsible with her content and not caring if minors stumble across their NSFW, as it's blasted on their main platform. This is not how to be responsible with your content as a creator. Take notes if you plan on being a creator yourself anytime soon. Now, I'm sure some are thinking or commenting, it may be a coping mechanism, or it may be due to some past trauma. That's horrible if true. However, not only am I not seeing that with Shadow so far, that type of art should not be online in general. It's not a healthy coping mechanism to share it with other people. Even if it's a private account like I mentioned earlier, if you're not careful and are large enough that other people know about you, it will somehow get leaked. Nothing you post on the internet is entirely private. You should always act as if anything you say or do online is being monitored in some way, or someone is still watching your content. And Shadow here doesn't even try to hide it. They just blatantly put it out there in the open for minors and anybody to stumble across. She is always using the MLP hashtag in most of these uncensored NSFW arts. As I must add again, this is not like the furry fandom in the fact that most of the individuals are adults. Though there are problems in the furry fandom that need to be addressed, but that's a bit off topic from this. But the revival team and its projects are specifically meant for all ages. There are minors within the server viewing this content and finding her work, and Shadow has shown to not be taking precaution when it comes to safeguarding her post online. It's gotten to a point where it's not just about the art, it's also about who she associates herself with and how she carries herself publicly. Shadow's uncomfortable patterns regarding how she advertises herself online with a largely minor audience is highly concerning. Here are some screenshots of her openly advertising her NSFW profile on her main account, which also links to her account she uses for the revival team. You can argue that she does have her fetish account on a separate NSFW profile, but still, it leaks to main with no prior warnings besides it being labeled as her fetish account and nothing more. So even then, there is still a lack of genuine protection here. Other examples of Shadow and her audience blatantly harassing / wanting others to justify incest, even when the person is just stating their opinion on the matter. Or just banning them on site if they disagree with incest in any way, taking it as a personal slight to not like incest. Once again, I must state that I am disgusted with any incest content, but that's not the only issue. The issue I have with her working directly with the G5 revival team and possibly making them look bad with how she represents herself. There was an instance where she flat out lied to Derpy Buru about creators Akuro and Doc Anubis, coming around to it and being okay with the artwork she posts. Shown in a document that was made, both claims of Maka and Doc were shown to be untrue by both parties. Another thing that happened in cause of this, Maka ended up leaving the team early, and understandably so. You can view his post about it here, which I highly recommend you take a pause to read. Even after all of these issues were brought to light, the team still decides to not take any of it seriously and genuinely try to make up for it or change it in some way. That in itself is disappointing, but I'm just glad that there are others who have read it through and are becoming more aware of these issues at large. I think that people like this are not the kind of people that should be supported. We don't need another Black Griffin or YT Toon Critic situation going on. We need to protect minors in this community and not let stuff like this slide, like this team and its leaders have been doing. I am not accusing Shadow of doing anything inappropriate with minors, but they have shown blatant disregard for setting firm boundaries with their position. This project is for all audiences, including kids. They need to be more careful with who they associate with. She needs to remember that she's a professional in a professional space, and she is working with other people alongside of her. If her reputation is bad, then the team's reputation will suffer along with it. And so far, nothing is changing, and the team's reputation has been tanked. Nobody will want to work with them on this project, nor even interact with the content they produce. I myself wanted to work on this project, but felt uncomfortable because of these instances, and I'm noticing a theme of other people feeling uncomfortable within the server, as well as a lot of people outside it due to Shadow's behaviors. Not only this, it brings a high concern that these are the people in charge of reviving G5, when in my opinion, they are in no state to do so. People should have other outlets for this content than having to rely on these sorts of people. It gives a bad image all around. Now, when it comes to Shadow's disability, I'm not fully aware of what it may be. However, I don't think it's a good excuse to be drawing incest art, as well as saying that it's mainly for commissions. It is not a good reason to draw it. It will only damage and tarnish your reputation. I'm sure there are better ways of getting money that don't require you having to do anything physical, or anything that revolves around illegal content. Hell, you could still do NSFW commissions, but doing controversial stuff like advertising your NSFW account on your main account when you know minors are following you or could be following you due to your associations with the MLP Revival Project, or boasting about the incest art is not a good look, nor will it ever have a healthy outcome. Your Patreon account is made useless as you're already promoting your NSFW arts without a paywall. Another point is, if you want to try to do art full-time because of your sickness, maybe don't draw incest art and lolicon adjacent art. Your reputation will be so much better if you just denounce this kind of stuff. But you let your pride and ego get in the way of all of that. I myself have disabilities, and I understand that living with disabilities can be expensive. I also didn't really grow up in the best environment, but I still somehow managed to find a job that was willing to work with me despite my disabilities. Now, I'm not saying that Shadow is able to get a normal job. However, she can make it easier on herself if she were to just stop this contrarian behavior and blatantly defend pro-ship art just because it's fictional. Even if you don't care about it morally, objectively, it makes you look horrible. That is something you need to sit down and realize.
Although I am personally disgusted by pro-shipping and the art that comes with it, this video isn't just about my personal thoughts. Despite what I may have said sooner, yes, I have stated my personal opinions, but it's to help shed more insight from another person inside this fandom. I'm making this video to point out how that kind of ideology can be dangerous to most people within this fandom, especially due to it being filled with minors. Not only can it damage vulnerable people within the fandom, but it can also do reputational harm to not only just the person who is drawing the art, but the people who surround themselves with the artist, inside or outside the fandom. When drawing art like this, think of who else it can affect. Please be responsible and don't be selfish. If it's a coping mechanism, then it's best to do it privately within the safety of your own space. Even if it's a locked account, it can still be leaked. Try to think of others when making public art. Please go seek any sort of mental health help you can find around you. Add proper tags so people who may be affected negatively by the art can properly avoid the artwork. And maybe, just maybe, don't mix it with your official public works. That also helps too. I apologize for such heavy topics for today's video, but I felt that this is needed to be said. Another reminder to please read the document. I have linked it below in the description, and share it for those who need to hear it. It helps make more people aware of what tends to hide in your favorite content. Please stay safe, everyone, and thank you for watching.
Psst. Check out the Patreon for extra content. Special shout out to Prixie and Tacotopia for donating to my Ko-Fi. Thank you guys so much.